Good day, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Splints and Whiskey. Splints and Whiskey is the podcast that deals with military medicine, pre-hospital medicine, first responders, and really it has become global. Our community is a community of enthusiasts when it comes to treating the patient, delivering awesome outcomes. And that is why today I am super stoked to have on my good friend Monti Leija, who I have been following and I'm almost trolling because of my major interest in his company. I'm gonna have Monty introduce himself, but before I do, I wanted to thank our sponsor. Our sponsor for Splints and Whiskey is called Life Autonomous Care Consultants. Life Autonomous Care Consultants is a company that sells uh, all pre-hospital trauma training, field training, all the way up to medical simulation for MTFs and hospitals. So I'm talking hemostatic gauze up to a high fidelity mannequin or VR, AR headset or immersive rooms, anything that you would need to fit your requirements for T, ECC, TCCC, ACLS, BLS, all those things. We know your requirements, and then we're experts in procurement. So we're contract experts, so we can help get you to the finish line. So thanks for LACC. The best way to find the family and of the entities is look at www.thelizarts.com. That way you can find the foundation that we work with. You can be attached to Splints and Whiskey, and then you can also click onto LACC if you need some gear. Anyway, that was my shameless plug for our sponsor, but we do appreciate those guys, and we appreciate what they're doing for our service members and our end users. So, Monty, welcome to the show, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. Please tell the listeners about yourself if you don't mind. Give them your background because you've got a pretty awesome background, and then bring us up to what you're doing today if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I joined the military when I was pretty young. My goal when I joined was to be a Green Beret from the initial start. But at that time, which was the early 90s, at that time, you had to do your time in the Army before you could go to selection. So you had to gain some rank before you could go to selection. So I ended
Mm.
up going to the 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg. And I spent pretty much my whole career on Fort Bragg, except for a few years at the end there. But I was in the 82nd for a while as a combat medic. And then I went to selection. I became a Green Beret. And then I went to the 3rd Special Forces Group. And then around the GWAT time, which is the uh, 9/11 attack, right around that time, just a few months after that, we were one of the first teams into Afghanistan in 2002. Yeah, 2002. We were one of the
Yeah.
first teams in there.
That was like immediate. That was like immediate.
Yes, yes, we were like one of the first ones on the ground with indig forces and with in a big compound. There was only 12 of us. Maybe it was 11. I don't even know the number. But we were definitely austere. We were out there. I had a UW clinic that where I was treating casualties. We would get casualties. I treat them there, and I would say I didn't do a very good job, just because I was a young medic and I really didn't have anything. And then I was getting like really, really sick people, and I was just dealing with stuff that they prepared us for in theory, but in action it just didn't work out. So we had to figure things out.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I spoke with some guys the other day, IDCs the other day, and they were saying how everybody prior to going over there and being in the hot zone, they all would bitch and bitch and bitch about training. Okay. And then after they went, they were like, we will never, ever, ever, ever bitch about training again. Like, oh my God. They were like, we need so much more stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it was the Wild West. We called it the Wild West. So we were in the Wild
Yeah.
West there in third group. And so I just kept going back to Afghanistan for a few years there, and then I went to the special operations side of the Army, which just to explain your audience, I was in special forces, and then special operations was more of a global mission. So the Green Berets mission is more in the area they're in. They kind of work in that, and the special operations more global. They do missions in Afghanistan, but they also do missions outside of Afghanistan and other places. End up in special operations, and then I went to Iraq. And Iraq was a different mission set for me as far as being with indigenous forces and working UW clinics and all that. Now it was more direct action, getting the target data, and then going after a specific target. So that changed. My medicine changed there because I had to be fast. It wasn't prolonged field care. It was like treat your casualty, get them on a helicopter, and get them
Yeah.
out of there, right? But I ended up getting a mission that was austere, and then we started trying to figure out how to do blood products then, and that was around 2007. And we were a long ways from evac, so we were trying to figure out, okay, we take some serious casualties, we actually do need blood. We tried to work it out. It was just too difficult logistically to keep blood viable in these austere environments. So we kind of went
And is that
away from
because
that.
of, I got a question on that, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. And I appreciate also your
yeah,
clarity to the listener, because we have a lot of lay people that listen too,
yeah,
including myself. Um, um, was it hard when you said keeping it viable? And this is not a plug for your company. I'm
yeah.
asking as a question. Was it hard because you couldn't keep it refrigerated, or because you didn't get enough of it, or what? I mean, I know that people transfused, y'all would transfuse through each other,
Yeah.
but
So
was
that's a
that
good point.
why?
Okay, so you hit a really good points there. So one, it was
Oh,
keep it
cool.
refrigerated on mission. So at the base, you could keep your blood refrigerated, but the minute you left base, you couldn't predict if it was going to be an 8 hour mission, a 12-hour mission, or if you're going to be stuck out there for days when you started out. So
Gotcha.
you couldn't keep the blood viable on mission in the amount of time that you may need it. So that was the one downfall. And then
Hmm.
the other one was the resupply as well, because you didn't know what the blood was when you got it, and then you threw it in the refrigerator, and then you maintained it for a little bit, but you never knew if it went out of temperature range before you even received it, because it would go on a ring flight, and meaning the flights didn't come directly to your location. They went to different locations, and they eventually ended up at yours, kind of like a
Hmm.
postal route, right?
Yeah.
So you had the logistics of that part of it. And then the other part of that was because we did things so rapid and fast. I was always ready to do the buddy transfusion, which they call the walking blood bank now.
The
But
walking
back
blood
then,
bank. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what they call it now. But when we were doing it, we called it the buddy transfusion. And so we
Hmm.
knew who we were going to draw from and do. But things happen so fast, like you don't have time to slow down and sit somebody down. And you're a small element, so you might have, 5 to 8 guys. It's like, okay, who's going to sit down long enough in this contact to give blood? Like we've got eight guns. All 8 guns got to be fighting. We don't
Right,
got
right, 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 right.
we don't got time to like do this. But I was always prepared for a buddy transfusion if it came down to it, and
Yeah,
the situation happened. I was ready to do it. But just how fast our operations went, we just couldn't like sit down and say, okay, let's sit this person down and do a buddy transfusion. Let's draw this blood off to give to this guy. I was like, no, we got to keep moving. And they might be
yeah,
in a
yeah,
whole nother vehicle, and we're just hauling ass out of there.
yeah, yeah,
So that was kind of the situation. So that's why we were trying to solve for the cold storage side, was because of moving so fast. It would be great if I could just do a transfusion with blood right now in a vehicle or in a helicopter or however we were
yeah,
getting out there. That's the best time to do it, not try to draw blood and get it on somebody. Uh, but that was our mission set. Now everybody has different mission sets. So would the bloody transfusion work when I was in Afghanistan? Yeah, because my evac was like a day long. I wouldn't see an evac, and in 2002, it could be a whole day before a helicopter even showed up out there. So,
yeah,
yeah, walking blood bank makes sense because I'm gonna be sitting on my patient all day anyways. So I
yeah.
got
So,
time
so,
to,
so, to interrupt on that. So now, being retired though, what do you think about this prolonged field? I mean, we're going to get into prolonged field care for blood
yeah,
later,
yeah,
but I mean, you said you had a day.
yeah,
So it was the golden hour, when my dad was in, it was the golden hour. Vietnam, then it's, it could be a day. Now we're at 72, with these dirty drones and stuff. Is that like something that kind of blows your mind?
Uh, it doesn't. We were already working that long, prolonged field care when I was first in Special Fort. Like we were already planning for that. I already had a clinic. I knew I was already going to have to hold on to somebody for days,
Yeah,
which is not
that's
good.
good.
We only had limited aircraft. When I was on the ground in Afghanistan, the only aircraft there was no medevac helicopter. It was the 160th was the helicopters. And if they had a mission, they weren't coming to get your patient. They were going to do their mission, and then you got to hold on to your patient and you got to wait. And maybe we'll be able to come out and get them at this night. So, I mean, we did lose casualties because I think they did get held on too long, but we didn't have the aircraft to move people out, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And
that was part of the mission.
I'm sorry for
Yeah,
your loss of the
yeah,
recent
yeah,
160th. Yeah, Splints and Whiskey supported
yeah.
that. We're really sorry about that. I mean,
Um,
but yeah, back to where we're. So you said I interrupted you at
yeah,
Afghanistan with the day. So walking blood bank made sense then, you said.
yeah, made sense. We actually did them. So we were doing walking blood banks on the camps. When they brought casualties in 2002 into one of our bases, I had a forward surgical team. We had the first forward surgical team in Afghanistan on our fire base.
Oh,
And so,
cool.
yeah. And so when we would get casualties up in the mountains and they would evac them back by vehicle to our fire base, the surgical team was there. They would do an all call out, and then people would show up to the clinic and donate blood. And we were actually doing the walking blood bank in 2002. So I know they're like, oh, we got to do this walking blood bank like it's this new thing, but we were doing it in
And people
2002.
act, I know, I was talking with Dennis Lyons, and I'm sure you're friends with him.
Yeah,
And one day I'm talking with Dennis Lyons, and I known him forever because we all know each other through the industry, right?
yeah,
I known him forever, but we hadn't like really sat and talked, and we were at AMSIS or something like that, A ASUA or whatever it's called. Anyway, we're there at the National Harbor, and we're talking, and he's telling me, y'all with Special Operations Forces, you are so off the curve. Like
yeah,
he was telling me stuff that you guys were doing like when I was in high school. And I thought I'm old. And I thought like some of this stuff just started. Like what
yeah,
you're saying with the walking
yeah,
blood bank.
yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, Liz, and you know what he did? This was so great of him. He said, Liz, let's have a call. And he said, because I know what I don't know, and I know what I know, right? So I
Yeah.
just want to learn all the time. And so he did this, like, showed me this whole paper of everything that he had written, from like everything from simulation on, like but it was from years ago, of stuff that we're acting like is brand new. And, and we think it's brand, so you're saying 2002, I'm going, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then EMS thinks that it started tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were doing that a while ago. But to catch you up where we were, so I started going to Iraq, that mission set changed, and then I went back to
Yeah.
Afghanistan, and then stayed in special operations. And then and then we were just talking earlier about how, you know, when you're in special ops, it's like being on crack. The missions, I say it's like being on crack. I don't know if everybody knows what crack is, but it's a drug. Uh, and so, being in special ops is this adrenaline drug. You do these missions and you're always, pumped up and amped up. And
Yeah.
so it was like, okay, I need an off ramp. So I went and did the ROTC thing here in Tucson my last few years, which allowed me to get off the crack and have a pretty good transition out of the
You
military.
like titrated down off of your crack.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah. So I
Yes.
titrated off that mission set, and then so when I retired, I had a pretty good transition. Some people have a hard transition when they, cold turkey jump out of the
Yeah, I was gonna
military.
say, I mean, that's really good that you did that, because I wasn't gonna trigger you, but I was gonna ask about PTSD, but I'm not now.
Yeah,
But no, the fact that you transitioned like that and you titrated down, So good because, you know, as I grow in this industry, my guys are all starting to retire, and I'm seeing some, you see the marital problems, you see the those first 6 7 months, and then just to live your whole life where someone gives you a billet or tells you where to go, or you're doing your
Yeah.
ICTLs, you know what I mean, yes sir, yes ma'am, yes this, yes that, yes drill sergeant, and then to be like, shit, where is my worth anymore? I don't have a title anymore.
Yeah.
So you sounded like you really transitioned in a very healthy way.
Yes.
So that's
It's
that's awesome.
yeah, that's what I'd say I did. And then so I retired, and then so met a couple engineers out here in Tucson that wanted to build Bill and Rob, and Bill really wanted to build a life-saving device. He's an expert in refrigeration. And
That's
so
cool.
yes, and so I met with him, and he was doing other projects, and he was like, I really want to make blood refrigerator for the DoD. And so I went and saw what he had, and I was like, nope, nobody's going to use that. Too big.
Too
Too
big. I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, it was too big, too cumbersome. I was like, and then also in my own need or my own thought was like, no, I need to get this to special ops. Whatever we're gonna do, like these guys are in the thick, they're fighting all. I just won't go over, but these guys are right now, there's probably someone somewhere getting ready to get it on somewhere, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, hey, nope, we've got to build something that we can get it to the people that actually will have blood on their mission.
yeah,
And so that was my own alternative motive was, okay, I got to do this. So we've got to get this as small as possible, as small as we can get it, battery powered, military grade. And I said, we've got to get this to the soft teams. Like they need it like yesterday. I needed it in
hmm
2007, right?
yeah.
And
And
now
what
we're in
year
two,
was that?
and yeah, and now we're in 2016, 2017,
Okay,
talking to
yeah,
these
God,
guys,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
needed this in 2007. So
yeah,
I'm like, okay, we've got to do this. So then we got a couple DoD grants to build the smaller APRU, battery powered, 4 days, designed specifically really for soft. Um,
yeah.
and that was our whole focus was get this out there, life, save lives, get blood, point of injury. I mean, that was our driving force. And so that started going, and then EMS started doing blood, and we knew they were kind of doing blood um, in San Antonio and other places. And then they reached out to us, and they're like, "Oh, we really want to do blood." And then we started to understand the EMS portion. So we started out with we started out with hardware built to beat up and go in the desert and go in the Arctic. Like that was the whole
Yeah,
whole thing. But I had talked to this one P, and this is just by happen. I talked to this PA running a blood program for SOF, and that was his. Not only being a PA, but his job was to do the accountability of the blood that SOF was getting and sending out on mission and keeping the documentation that the blood was staying in temperature range. And he said,
that's a big job.
you know what would help me out? He goes, if you would put a temperature recorder in the actual device, and then I don't have to do the document. Like I can just download the record because the military, they have to check it every 4 hours and they have to annotated on a piece of paper that it was refrigerated and put that into an Excel sheet. He was like, if
Yeah,
your device could just record it every 4 hours and I could download that document or, CSV file, I'm good. Like my life has been made easy. So that was his idea. And then when EMS got the APRU, they were like, we don't even care if it's rugged. Like, we only want the document recorder that's in that thing. It's like, because we have all these regulations that we are required by the FDA and the blood bank. And they're like, we just want that document recorder you have in that thing, and then everything that goes along with it. And so that's when the EMS side, the regulatory piece, then we started tackling that for EMS. Like we started
well,
tackling
so
how do we
so
make their
okay, so
life easier?
I didn't even know you had that piece. But I'll tell you, the other day, one of my retired guys, he just retired from the Pentagon, but Navy, IEC, and he was specifically asking me about that capability. So now that I know that you have that, I'm going to connect you guys afterwards. I have a shirt that one of my vendors bought me that says Liz Arts brand matchmaker. You know, like I just always want to introduce you. But I mean, this guy just asked me about that capability, and
Yeah.
he didn't know that it existed, and nor did I. We were talking about QR codes and crap like that. But anyway, so keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's a good point because you know that it exists, but only 2%, Dr. Randy Schaefer stated only 2% of EMS, and about a gazillion percent of our listeners are EMS, or they're doing, or they're DOD. So that's a good point to know that you do have that recording part. I thought you were just the refrigeration. That's it.
Yeah. No, now we again that's the that's why EMS agencies, that's the challenge for them to even adopt, is the regulatory
Yeah,
documents.
that's what
And
they always
that's
complain the
the
most
part,
about. Yeah.
that's the hard part for them. Like giving blood, that's easy. Put it in a truck and taking blood with you. That's easy. It's all the compliance that they have to do, that the
Yeah.
blood bank requires, and that's really the sticking point for them. So we built that APRU, and then we had all that in there, and it was Bluetoothing, and then even with that, just wasn't enough for EMS to get over the hump or the hurdles with the blood banks. Yes, a progressive blood bank that wants to like support them and do the right thing, like they're, yeah, we'll work this out with you, and we'll figure out a way to use that document from the APRU and do all that. But then you have blood banks that are like strict.
Yeah.
They are like not going to bend rules. They're not going to make you. You've got to comply to our rules if we're going to let you do this.
Yeah.
And so that's how we evolved with the Delta Ice, in that it does the cellular connection to do the reporting real time. So
Ah,
now our Delta Ice, that you can see it anywhere in the world you are, that you have this app. You can see what the temperature of the delta ice is at that point in time in the connection, right? So you can see the
yeah.
temperature, you can see how many units of blood are in there on your screen as a report. It gives you alerts, it gives you excursions. So that came from the cooler because the APRU was a solid refrigerator, but agencies wanted the cooler, but the cooler, uh, it's not a good solution, because things can thaw and things can go out of temperature range. And if you're not paying attention, now the blood bank is going to shut down your program because you're not staying in compliance, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we were like, okay, well, how do we solve for this? They want a cooler, but it's not a good solution. The APRU is the best solution. Uh, so how do we do that? So we reverse engineer the APRU so that the cooler works just like the refrigerator, except for you have to change the pack out, but it has real-time monitoring. It has the digital display of the temperature. It sends out alerts, alarms, excursions over text, email, and all these other things. So we made the cooler a really smart, robust system, even though, again, the APRU is the best solution, but we gave them an okay solution with the cooler with all the remote monitoring. And then the blood banks are fully on board because the blood banks can see the temperature whenever they want.
Gosh.
They can check in on the program and see how they're doing.
Um, you gave me your background. When did you become a genius on all of this, like this refrigeration stuff and everything? I mean, that is,
Yeah,
I
it,
know you learn as you go, but good Lord, this is a labor of love, but you've turned
yeah.
into, I think you've got your doctorate.
it's
It's
all about
insane.
it's all about saving lives. It is
Me
like, okay,
too. Yeah.
how do we save a life? How do we get blood to the point of injury? And then what are all the challenges? And then like, so we kind of solved the military side, but the EMS side, how do we solve it? How do we expand it? How do we get blood out there, right?
Can I ask
Uh,
you something that I don't know
yeah.
if on the panel when we had that panel for the whole blood that I don't think that they could ask it, but since I'm a layperson, I'm allowed to ask it, right?
Yeah.
Um, are there are there certain let me think of how I want to say this. Could you give me an example of a state or a city that you're or a county, if you will, that you would say is like cream of the crop? Now, I know I've heard like San Antonio, New Orleans, we know Kleiman from Atlanta is like rocking it. I'm in Tidewater. We've got Tidewater.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah,
we have I love where I live. I'm like
yeah,
crossing my
yeah,
fingers for a car
yeah.
wreck, right? So I can just like be a part of it. But so I know that I'm in a killer spot. But is there like a city or a county that you're going, man, they've taught me more than I've taught them?
I would say yes, and this is the ones you mentioned. So San Antonio, uh,
Mm,
a big influence on our smart cooler, because
okay.
they had started using the cooler, but they're like, hey, yeah, we're using the cooler, but it doesn't do. We need this cooler to do all this other stuff. We're using third-party apps, third-party devices to monitor temperature. We're not getting it real time. The current cooler we have right now actually, goes out of temperature range within 12 hours. It says 72, but it actually lasts 12 hours in the summertime. They're like, it's not true. And people that use the other one, that's how they switch to us, because they're like, it's not true. In the summertime, it doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
And then we've got to keep switching out our packs more often than we want to. So San Antonio was a big piece of our smart cooler. I would say also Palm Beach County was part of that. Sci-Fair was part of the cooler design.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? So really, the cooler side was those agencies that were already doing blood and were like, "Hey, this cooler's not the answer, but it's the
You
best one
know,
we have
I,
now. But
I
this is what we
really
need."
I gotta say, I appreciate that that you're taking the feedback, from the end user and then fixing it and fixing it and fixing it. Like I work with about 35 different manufacturers, right? And I had to go to Germany to get an upgraded Rescue Randy, because no one here thought, that they care about the end user, but they can't make a mannequin that we could use for T-Triple-C that's a task trainer, right? I mean, give me a
Right,
break.
right.
So I had to call NATO, instead of my industry partners here and say, find me somebody. And I had to get, Combat Carl from damn Germany, right? Well, so, you know, as a taxpayer and a patient and a business owner who sells simulation, like I gotta say, I really appreciate that you as the CEO of your company listens to the customer and that you continue to change the stuff. I mean, you continue to upgrade it. I mean
Yeah,
that's the only way we're going to win is
yeah,
to do it all together. I mean, this doesn't even take a village. I mean, it takes the globe. I mean,
yeah,
the blood is like it's a whole thing. It's just to me mind blowing and but amazing what we can do.
yeah.
Okay, so keep going. So then they've all helped you out and then tell
I
me
would say
like kind of where we are. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then Austin doesn't brag about themselves very often, the Austin Travis EMS. But as far as APRU adoption and implementation, I think they have the largest blood program in the nation. Nobody talks about, but they probably have 30 APRUs, almost 30 APRUs across their whole area. I mean,
Wow.
so I mean that's a lot of blood on the streets. I think they have,
Yeah.
um, and they uh, and they have a very not strict but a very firm blood bank that they work with, that they get audited quite often by the blood bank. They make sure they stay in compliance, and the APRU is what does that, because it records all the temperature. It stays in temperature. They just leave it on the vehicle. They never have to take it off unless they have a patient. Then they'll take it off and transfer blood. So I will say that Austin, as far as APRU implementation, is pretty large
That's
compared
cool.
to the other. Now there's the smaller ones are all doing APRUs, Delta ICER or whatever, but I think Austin, as far as I know, has the largest blood program uh, in the nation. Last time I knew, about a year ago, they had already transfused about 800 units of blood in about 2 years since starting the
Okay,
blood
that's a.
program.
I was gonna try and figure out a way to ask that question because on the panel for Thames, David Long said, in our couple years we were at 350. So I didn't know. So that really does give me a nice, what parameter, I guess, if you will, of where of the differential. So yeah, because I know that even the other guests on the show from a county in Atlanta that we will not say the name. Um, they were like, we're just getting started. So 350 to him was, gargantuous. So 800 to us, I say us because I live in Tidewater, is wow, that's really big. Okay, and so then tell me about now where we are today. So you kind of you're I guess you work in a situation where you kind of partner with two other companies, even though you're all individually owned, right? And
Mhm.
could you explain that to our people so that they understand that? Because I found that confusing when I met David Crosby from 410, because then he's like, well, you need to talk to Mark Peel about QM flow. And then I'm seeing all this Delta development stuff. And I was like, what is, like I didn't understand that. So will you kind of explain that to the listeners so they understand that a little bit, if that's
Yeah,
okay?
so it's termed the because it's called the triad of life, but the triad of death, right? The triad of death, acidosis, and all that
Yeah.
kills your patient. It's shock, right? So, but we call it the triad of life because it's kind of the opposite. You're dying in the triad, in the triad of death there, right? That spiral, you're dying. Triad of life trying to reverses that spiral that our patient's going into, and meaning no matter what, you have to have refrigeration of your blood product. That's a must. Um, but your blood's refrigerated at 4C, which is pretty cold, and so in your triad of death, you're getting hypovolemic, right? Your patient's already getting hypovolemic, and so giving them cold blood is not the best solution. If you can warm it up so the patient gets warm blood that's already getting hypovolemic, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you have the life flow in there, right? That really transfuses blood really, really fast. So if you're in shock because your volume's down, you've lost all this blood. Hey, let's get this blood in as fast as possible. So let's warm it up and increase your volume, and let's reverse this triad of death that's happening with the low volume and the hypothermia. And then our part, of course, is just getting the blood viable to that location, because
Hmm.
you've got to get it there, and your patient's not by the hospital, your patient's not hanging out in the hospital, right? It's going to be on some roadside
Yeah.
somewhere in an accident, or stuck in some building, or someone gets shot and they can't get it secured right away, and the patient's been bleeding there for 8 to 10 minutes, and finally someone can get over there and help them. They're already down, they're already spiraling by that time. So getting them to the hospital is not going to it's going to make a difference, but they're going to keep dying until they get to the hospital.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
die before they get in the hospital, right? Because it's
Well, you
been this.
always hear that, like, oh, they coded in or whatever, they coded in route, or they're dead, they're dead en route. And it's like, shit, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they've been bleeding out for 8 to 10 minutes before anybody got to them.
Yeah,
And
which I
then
thought I thought 3 minutes was the max, honestly, when I look at school shootings, that's what I thought. So, again, layperson, but I didn't know, I didn't know how long it was that you would have to bleed out. I guess it would
it could
depend
be,
on,
it's the
depend on the
situation.
industry.
It
Right,
depends
yeah,
on
right.
how secure is. I mean, are they bleeding like that just happened and you can get a tourniquet on, or you can do some pressure dressing or something like that and stop the bleeding within 30 seconds? They're going to be fine, right? You stopped all that
Yeah.
bleeding. But how long did it take to get to that patient? That's when the clock starts, when the bleeding stops. The clock doesn't start when the paramedic shows up to the scene and they're like, oh, we got a 10-minute evac time. It's like, yeah, but have they been sitting on the side of the road for like 15 minutes before you even got there, bleeding to death? Like they need the blood like right when you showed up. That's when you need to get blood for your
You gave
10
me
minute
the
evac time.
chills. Like I didn't even mean to. You gave me the chills when you said that the clock stops with the clock starts when the bleeding stops. I'm like, yes, thank you. That's a good line that I'm gonna steal.
Okay.
It gave me the chills. Um, okay, that's awesome. So now, so tell me, tell me what else I'm missing. I mean, I'm learning so much from you today. Because we're somewhat coming up on time, but tell me, I mean, what else am I missing, or what would you say to the average? Uh, okay, our main listeners are EMS and DoD, right?
Yeah.
But globally, so not just our Department of Defense, but also other other countries, their trainers and X, Y, and everything. But what would you want to say to them maybe to encourage them to implement and and do the researching and get themselves involved or in delivering blood as soon as possible?
Well, I think in the DoD space, we're still missing, we have some gaps there. Um, One is a larger refrigeration, which we're building right now. We call it the Total Blood Solution. And it's, we've got a federal grant, a TACFI grant, Air Force grant, and we're building that. We're on the final stages of building this bigger refrigerator that will be safe to fly, meaning you'll be able to put on an Air Force aircraft. There's no other
Yeah, yeah,
device, there's no other refrigerator you can put on an Air Force aircraft right now.
that's
So,
really important.
right. So the Air Force needs a blood refrigerator that they can put on their planes on a C-17, because again, we're looking at large scale combat operations where, the Air Force is going to have to go pick up a lot of patients on these C-17s. They need the blood on those aircraft. So we're
Yeah.
working on that. The other part special about the design is it'll be about 8 to 10 days of battery power on this
Hmm.
thing. So when they unplug it, you'll be able to like put on an aircraft for 8 days and fly it around until you have to recharge that thing or resupply. So we have that coming out. We also are working on a special 1 unit, because right now, that medics they're not allowed to carry the 1 unit blood cooler anymore because it didn't meet the standards that they needed for a one, so that they don't have
For
anything right
every
now.
branch or for Army?
I don't know for every brand. I know for TCC, COTC, they're like, okay, no, it's not approved. It's they took it off. It's a poor design. It doesn't do what it says it's going to do, or it doesn't do what it needs to do for 12, 24, 48 hour missions, right? It's
Yeah.
good for six, but who does a 6 hour mission?
Yeah, right.
Nobody
Yeah, 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 yeah,
on the
yeah.
DoD
Let me
space.
know when that happens, right? I'll be home for
Yeah,
dinner. Yeah, yeah,
right. So,
bullshit. Right.
right. So it just doesn't work out. So we are working on a 4 day, uh, less than 4 pound passive cooler for soft right now. And so we're in the process of building that out. So we're adding more capabilities, or we're trying to fill those gaps. The soft medics have said we need a 1 unit uh, cooler, passive cooler, refrigerator, or whatever. But we need to carry one bag of blood on our missions for 24 to 48 hours or something like that. So we're building that
Hmm.
out. And then the TBS side, they said, hey, we need to have this TBS size refrigerator, last a long time on battery power, no EMI, meaning, they can't find it. I don't know if you know about EMI, but, the bad guys like to search for EMI and then, launch rockets into those things. So we're going to
Yeah,
design
yeah.
it so it doesn't emit EMI. So that's one thing we're working on. And the other part of that for the commercial sector, which is applicable to the military side, is what we call our premium now, and that automates everything for the end user
How
from,
big is your company?
I don't know, I don't know, like 40 people maybe.
Yeah, God, you guys are doing so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a slave driver. Like I push it. I push them
I,
hard.
I am too, and before we even started this podcast, I said, coachable moment. I just hired somebody and she's meeting you, right? I mean, I am too, but you're not going to see, I'm a servant leader. I mean, they're
Yeah,
not going to do anything that I'm not going to do. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
work harder than everybody in the world, in my squad, but you
yeah.
sound like you're the same. Let me ask you about an objection that I hear that I think is bullshit because I think most objections are bullshit. I'm in sales, so my that's my job. I mean, if somebody wants something, they're going to get it. The objection is a smoke screen in most cases, right? That means we're not selling them something. Um, there are several blood warmers on the market. I don't even want
Yeah.
to name their names. We don't have to. It's a waste of my time and breath. Um, but have you heard how people go? And it's not going to be someone who really wants to save lives. It's going to be someone who's in logistics, but they're going to say, well, we think that the Q and flow is too big. Don't you think that I've seen it? Is it really is it really too big?
I think it just depends on your mission set. I think for most of the military, it's not too big. I mean,
I agree.
most of them have vehicles nowadays, anyways. And who's if you're doing good medicine, you're trying to get your patient back to an evac vehicle as fast as possible.
Exactly.
So it's not
Right.
like you have to like carry it in your aid bag. I guess you know if when I was in special forces, I would find a way to get to the vehicle. Like we would be moving to that vehicle at some point. We're getting to our evac platform, wherever that
Right. And
is.
you realize I'm talking to people that are in training, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
they're not even in the field, right?
Yeah,
So if they're saying it's too big, for what? For the fake Afghanistan that we've got built inside of their inside of their 6-day whiskey place or whatever. Like I'm like, so I hear that objection. I'm like, okay, that is not objection at all.
yeah,
Number one, I know head to head, and I can sell all three of them. What's on the market?
yeah,
But number two, give me a break on that. Okay, so I just want to get your opinion because you're so knowledgeable. Okay,
yeah.
good
I
on
mean,
that.
I had this one guy. So we do have a warmer that's different that we're getting through the FDA. It's not inline, it's the opposite. And when I was talking to him, and he's a special operations medic, and he was like, I was like, okay, so what do I need to do? Why would you carry this? And he's like, he's like, if you could just make it as small as possible, that would be great. He goes, I'll carry more weight, no big deal, but I need that cubic space. Type deal. I could really use the cubic space. But again, he's like, but if that's all I have to carry, then I'm going to carry it. I'll find a way to carry it.
Exactly.
I'll find a way to carry this. If this is what I have, I will find a way to carry it, or I'll put it in those places to where I will use it. So maybe I don't have it on my body, but I have it in a vehicle, helicopter,
Yeah.
or a clinic, or wherever we're evac to, and do that. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
think
and,
that
and and I asked that. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
I asked that, letting you know that I don't sell that product. So I mean, I will if someone wants it. I've got pricing for it, but that's not why I asked. I asked because you know I just recently was got to watch a video of one of my army guys. It's He can't show this video, and I can't say who he is or anything, but he was protecting the outside of Saddam Hussein's house, um, on a mission, and I got to see a video. And what he did was he was sending a video back to his parents at one point, and he had his vest on, and he was infantry, so he's not a medic, and he's pulling out, everything on there, and it was the heaviest thing, and there was so much stuff in there, and I'm thinking, believe me, and and then I watched them. This guy's a sniper, ugh, insane, right? And but I'm watching all of it, going, oh yeah, and the blood warmer's too big. I mean,
yeah,
like that's like saying, I can't even go there. I mean, it's just like, the stuff you hear. You're not on ECAT. Okay, there's other ways to buy it, guys. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like that's called a I don't want it, that's a decline on the phone, so whatever, it's fine. All right, so Monty, you are my new best friend. I freaking love you. This is awesome. We're coming up on time. So, could you share with our listeners just one, I don't know, one final thought? I mean, it could be, look both ways before you cross the street, or it could be about blood, like whatever you want. And then, and I want you to stick with me, if you don't mind, at the end, when I say goodbye to the listeners. But if you could stick with me, that'd be cool. But yeah, could you give us a final thought today, Monty and Leija, and you guys, before you do Delta development, please, if you want to know anything more about, because I feel like we really need to do almost like a monthly blood panel, and now that we've met, maybe we'll do it different, to where we do it with the triad, that might be kind of cool to do that. Uh anyway, final thoughts, if you don't mind.
I'm yeah, what's going through my mind is so one of the people that work with me, we were like, doing our mission statements and doing, who are we serving and all this. And she had said, our ultimate customer is the patient. Like, I know we're talking about equipment and we're doing these things, uh, but in the end, whatever you're doing, especially if you're a medic, it's still okay. You're saying the QM flow is too heavy. For who? For
Yeah,
you or for the patient that's bleeding out, that you're like, hey, dude, I wish I really would have had this warmer for you, but it was too heavy for me to carry,
right.
or it was too big for me to carry. It's like, are you going to tell that patient, like, yeah, you could use some warm blood right now, but it was too heavy for me to carry, or it was too big, so I didn't bring it. So you're kind of without, right? So I'm like, hey, don't lose sight of who your ultimate customer, or your
Right.
don't lose sight of your patient. And then the roadblocks people are getting on the military side of a lot of things. They're like, well, they won't do that, or and they're hitting these I was in the army. I hit roadblocks all the time, but I
Me
pushed the chain of
too. Yeah, it's like
command.
yeah, I mean, you
Push
know,
them.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't take it. You don't have to take, you have to follow orders, of course, but you don't have to take no, like, oh no, we're not going to do that because we don't have the budget. It's like, no, bullshit.
No.
You have budget. You just spent $1 million on rockets. You could take a
Yeah.
little portion of that to put that into life-saving product. I mean,
You
you
know,
just
I had to
spent a
quit.
billion dollars on rockets. Come on.
I had to start my own company because that way I can't get fired for yelling at DLA or my boss or whatever. Everything that I do with people is this agency agreement, right? I say that I'm vendor agnostic, I'm customer serving. That's who it is, and that's the patient.
Yeah.
That comes with my 20 years of pharmaceutical sales, right? I care about the patient and the soldier, the guardian, the daggone paramedic, whoever, those are our providers, but they're also our people. And I'm pretty active in my church. I'd like to make sure that everybody there is safe too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what the heck. But yeah, like I remember that I almost one time didn't get a mannequin covered by DLA that was based out of Minneapolis in 2020. They would cover the one that was light skinned, but not the one that was dark skinned. Imagine in 2020, Minneapolis, across from Cup Foods. And I had to write DLA a really nice Pulitzer Prize winning email, right? To say, really? Really? This building was burnt down the day that George Floyd was murdered,
Yeah.
and we're not going to do a black mannequin, but it has the same efficacy and the same stats and everything as the white one. Oh, oops. We pushed it. Did I get a little slap on the wrist from my boss at the time? Yeah. So did I start my own company? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but just think about it. But you're like, hey, if they don't get the training, they can screw this up.
right. Well, I
The
mean,
patient, the
yeah.
patient loses.
well, we need our patients to look like us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's where we were. I mean, if I'm in El Paso, then I don't need 16 white Simmans.
right.
I'd like a little bit of a different skin tone for, toda la gente que habla español, right? I mean, please, come on. So, yeah, so I like pushing the envelope too. All right, you're the best. You were the best. I want to get you back on to do a maybe one with you, Mark Peel, at Crosby, and maybe Schaefer too, but maybe not because because maybe I'll be like, tell me more secrets, where I don't have to worry about. But gosh, you guys are doing what you're doing at Delta Development is killer. Thank you for your service all the way through. And then thanks for being here today with us. Stick with me. Hey, to our listeners, this is Monti Leija. We are so stoked to have him on. And if you want any information about he or his company, or how you can learn more about just the process of getting blood, a blood program started in your town or city, please reach out to me or put some stuff in the comments. We're going to put his info in the feed like we always do. And then that way we can connect you guys, right? Because it does take a village, and together we're saving lives. And that's all that matters. Together we're saving lives. So thank you again. I do want to let y'all know that, listeners, that we have had this like huge demand, and they've sold out almost immediately, of our hats, Splints and Whiskey, and of our shirts. I'm only saying that because it goes to my 501(c) C is a tax write-off. So if you guys are interested in the hat or the shirt of Splints and Whiskey, which is so cool, people love the name. I love the name too. I'm so proud of it. Um, then then any proceed goes to, you get a tax write-off, and it goes to, so we can send gear to our EMS and our first responders, people that don't have the kind of money that some of those big firehouses do and some of the big first responder houses do. So if you are interested, shoot me a message, and we can tell you how to get it. Okay. That's why I'm wearing it like all the time. But anyway, Monty, thank you
You're welcome.
so much, and thank you for what you're doing every day. I so appreciate your time, and now I'm adopting you as my new friend because I think you're so cool.
All right, cool.
So I know, if you accept me. Um, so stick with me, and you guys at from Splints and Whiskey, we want to say thank you. We will see you next week, and have an awesome day. And we will stop recording now. So hasta la vista, and have an amazing week. We'll catch you next Monday on Splints and Whiskey. Bye bye.